Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I want to show you how to make a mixed media type Christmas card using some Tim Holtz products. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is start with the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits dies. And we're going to be using the Santa and the sleigh and the little wreath and bow. And this is called the Village Christmastime. And also the globe from Sizzix, the Thinlits dies from Tim Holtz, and this is just called the globe. I love this one. I've used it so many times. It's so detailed and beautiful. And then I'm going to take a circle die that matches the size of that globe. And I'm using my nesting circle dies from We Are Memory Keepers and just selecting the size that fits around that globe. And for paper, I'm going to use the Distressed Mixed Media Heavy Cardstock from Tim Holtz. And I just need a couple pieces here to lay the dies down onto. So I'm going to go ahead and get those dies in place. And I also want to get my Santa sleigh, the wreath, and the bow. And I'm going to go ahead and run those through my die cut machine. Now for the globe, you may want to run it through a couple of times because it is very detailed. So I run it through 2 or 3 times just to make sure that I have everything cut. Now that, you can see that fits on that circle, and I did die cut 3 sets of the Santa sleigh. I'm going to be layering those on top of each other. So I'm going to take the peeled paint, Distress Oxide ink, and I want to put ink on the land areas of the globe. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply a light coat of that all the way around. And don't be fussy here. If it goes over into the other areas, it's okay. If you are fussy with it, then you could use some little daubers, but I kind of wanted it to sort of mix together, and you'll see here in a second. I'm going to take the Forest Moss, which is a little bit darker green, and I'm just going to come in some different areas there, again, not being fussy. Just kind of applying some ink here and there just to give some light and dark shadows. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my ground espresso, which I love this color, and I'm going to fill in the areas of the globe with that. And you will see that some of it goes over into the land areas a little bit, but that's okay. I kind of want that look. I kind of want it to be just, I don't know, blended and a little bit more random. So that's the fun thing about mixed media, is you don't have to be fussy. Nothing is perfect. You can kind of just get an effect that you're going for. So now that I have that done, I kind of decided that after that I needed to blend that out a little bit more with the peeled paint. So I'm going back in and just blending those together, blending any of the brown that got in. And now you can see how pretty that globe is. And again, don't worry, because we're going to come in and do a few more things to it shortly. So now I'm going to take the peacock feathers on the circle that we die cut, and this is going to be for the water. And I'm just putting it in some random areas here, not being fussy. And then I'm going to take the Mermaid Lagoon and do a few more areas there. I just kind of want highlights and lowlights, and then I'm going to take the chipped sapphire and I'm going to kind of come in and make some of those areas a little bit darker. And you can see that it looks like a real mess right now, but I'm going to come in with peacock feathers and just blend that in just a little bit more. And then when I place the globe over top of that, you'll see you get some nice shadows. But I didn't feel that it was quite dark enough, so I went back to the chipped sapphire and just added a little bit more shadows on the top and the bottom there. And I'm going to blend that out just a little bit. And now I like how that looks. So now what I want to do is take my Distress sprayer, the Tim Holtz sprayer, it's just water, and I'm going to spritz all around that globe. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and just blot that up. And you're going to get these beautiful little splotches, I guess. And that's going to give a nice effect under the water under the globe part. And now you can see that I'm taking my heat gun and I'm just making sure that's nice and dry. Now I'm doing the same thing with the globe, spritzing it with a little bit of water and blotting it with my paper towel. And you can see how cool that looks. I love that. That gives a nice effect to the globe. And again, I'm just going to take that and just heat set it quickly. So now that's going to sit right over top of the water there. So now I want to go ahead, I'm happy with those. I'm going to go ahead and glue those two together. I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. And I'm just going to place some little dots of that all around the globe there and position that in place. Now I like to take a clean piece of scrap paper to attach things, especially when my hands start getting really sticky and filled with ink. And now I took a look at that globe, and my circle was just a hair bigger than the globe. At first I thought I liked it, but then I decided to trim away that excess. So you can leave it if you don't mind it. I decided to clean that up a little bit. So now I'm going to take the ground espresso distress oxide again, and I'm going to go all around that just to get rid of that white edge that's showing there. So now I'm going to take the distress paint, the picket fence color from Tim Holtz. This is an acrylic paint, and I'm just going to put a little bit on my glass mat here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that with the distress sprayer. And then I'm going to just take a small paintbrush here. I'm going to just spatter that white ink on my globe. And for all of you who know, I'm a terrible, messy spatterer, so it takes me a little while, so I fast forwarded to the final spattering there. And I did decide to take my heat gun and heat set that real quickly too. So now you can see that gives a nice snowy effect to the globe. So I think that'll look pretty good when the Santa sleigh is on there. So now I have Santa's sleigh, and I'm going to take my black soot ink, and I'm going to just apply that all over the sleigh. That's going to give me an inked surface to apply some embossing powder, because remember the distress oxides are also embossable inks. So I'm going to go ahead and put some black sparkle embossing powder on there, and this is from Ranger. And this is so pretty. It has a beautiful, kind of a rainbow sparkly effect. Now just remember, when you're using embossing powder that has glitter in it, the glitter is made of plastic. So you don't want to overheat. You want to get your heat gun nice and hot before you start, and just work your way right down the surface, trying not to go back and forth over it too many times, because you could actually melt the glitter portion. I know a lot of people have asked me about that. It will eventually melt if you keep overheating it. So just give it one quick zap with the heat gun, and then move on to the next area. So now I want to take those other Santa sleighs that we cut, and I'm going to glue those three together. Now I wanted that creamy color to show behind the sleigh. But if you prefer, you could have die cut those extra ones out of black if you prefer not seeing that lighter area. But I thought the lighter area created a little bit of a shadowy effect. So now I'm going to take the bow, and I'm going to take the Candied Apple Distress Oxide, and I'm just going to ink that up and give it some color. And I think that Candied Apple is so pretty. And then I'm going to take the three little wreaths that I cut, and I didn't say before, but I did cut 3 of these, and I'm going to layer these 3 together. And I'm using the peeled paint, and then I'm going to go with the ink the Nuvo adhesive, and I'm going to glue those three together. And that's going to form a nice little embellishment, give it a little bit of body. And now I'm going to take the forest moss, and I'm just going to, it's a little bit darker, and I'm going to go around the edges and just kind of get rid of some of that white around the edges there. So now I took another look at my Santa sleigh, and I decided that I wanted it to be a little bit more thicker with the embossing powder. So I'm taking my Distress Embossing ink. This is again by Tim Holtz, and I'm just patting it on all over that Santa sleigh. And then I'm going to apply another layer of that black sparkle embossing powder. And that's going to give this a little bit thicker of a consistency. I just thought it needed to look a little bit more chunkier. I don't know if that's the right word, but that was kind of the look I was going for. So I'm going to go ahead and just tap off all that excess powder. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set that again. So same as before, just one more layer. And you'll see here, I think it makes a nice difference. I think it actually gives it a nicer effect. And you could add more too. You can add as many layers as you want. So now I'm taking the Ranger Multi Matte Medium, and I'm going to apply a little bit of that around the back. This adhesive is really good for attaching all kinds of mediums together. Here we have the embossing powder and the paper, and later we'll be gluing some metal to the paper. So it is a nice adhesive for a multitude of products. So now I'm going to take my Spectrum Noir Crystal Clear Sparkle Pen, and I don't know if you can see that there, but that's what I'm using. And I'm just going to dab it on to that bow just to give it a little bit of sparkle. And then I'm going to just see how that looks, and I really love how that's going to look. So now I'm taking my Distress Mixed Media Heavy Stock, and it does come in 8.5 by 11 and also the 4 1/4 by 5.5. I'm using the larger sheet, and I'm actually going to make my card out of this because it's a nice heavy weight. I'm going to cut the paper at 4 1/4 by 11, and then I'm flipping this tab over and grabbing the bone folder. This is the We Are Memory Keepers trim scoreboard, and I'm going to score it at 5.5. And the little scoring tool is kept down at the very bottom of this scoreboard, which is really nice because you don't lose it. It's always where you want it to be. I'm just going to press out that fold, and this would be as if you were doing a top folding card, only I'm going to have it open from the side. So now I'm going to take my Tim Holtz paper stash, the Christmas Noel Navidad set, and I'm looking for this paper here as a little like crosshatch pattern. And I'm going to take my Tim Holtz tonic trimmer. I'm going to trim this down to 4 1/4 by 5.5. And I like this pattern. I thought it looked kind of a little bit like stars. So that's going to fit right on my card. And now I'm going to go back to my ground espresso ink, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that ink all the way around the edges. I don't want to come in too far because I want to leave that lighter area for where the globe is going to sit. So now that fits right on that card, and I'm going to go ahead and apply glue, my Nuvo adhesive, all the way around the back of that. And that's just going to let me position it, move it around a little bit if I need to here. And that fits right on top of that card. Now I'm going to take the black soot because I thought the edges needed a little bit of definition. And I'm not coming in far, I'm just doing the edges. I am opening the card to do this so I don't get any on the inside of the card. And I'm just rubbing it very lightly around the edges only. And that creates a nice frame. So So now I want to just see how that looks, and I really like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Again, taking my Nuvo adhesive and just applying it all over the back of this. And on this, I did want to use glue because I wanted to be able to move this around a little bit just to make sure I was centered. I want to make sure I center it on the card. So you can see me kind of sliding it around a little bit. So the glue does give you a little time to do that. Again, I'm going to take a clean piece of scrap paper and just press that down right into place there. And that looks good. Now that my little sleigh is going to sit over top of that, and I'm going to use the same adhesive to glue that down. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach that to my card here. Just kind of want to center that as well. And I let that dry. And now I'm going to take my quote chips from Tim Holtz, the Christmas set, and I'm going to just select one of these that looks the best, and they're so cute. I use these a lot on mixed media projects, and they're a nice heavyweight chipboard. And I'm just trying to pick out the one that I like here, but there's a whole bucket full of them here. And I decided to use Joy to the World. And I'm going to take some Scotch foam tape, and I'm going to go ahead and just pop that up a little bit. And like I said, these are a really nice, thick, heavyweight chipboard. So they make a great embellishment. And now I wanted to take a little bit of black soot, Distress Oxide, and just go around the edges of that just to, because the white is showing on the chipboard, and I wanted to get rid of some of that. And then I also thought that the Joy to the World was a little bit too white on top, so I'm going to take some ground espresso and just go a little bit over the top there, just kind of over the edge, just a hair, just to give it a little bit more of an aged look to it. You can see that there. So now that looks ready to be attached to my card. So now I have a little bit of, I just thought that upper left area needed a little something. So I'm coming back in with that paper stash, that we used before, and I'm going to pick the little word, the page with the words on it, and I'm going to grab that word believe off of that page. I love these pages with the words, and you can just grab whatever you want. Any saying. This one has tons of great little sayings on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. I'm just using my scissors. You could certainly use your cutter here if you wanted to be a little more fussy. I kind of wanted it to have a little more of a random look to it. So I'm just going to snip that end there and cut in from both sides and create a little bit of a banner here. But I thought it needed a little bit touch of red on it. So I'm going to go back to the Candied Apple Distress Oxide, and I'm going to just ink up around the edges of that. And that'll give it a little pop of color there. And now I have the red kind of like in 3 different areas on the card, which I think brings your eye all the way from the bottom up to the top. So now I'm going to take a little glue, and I'm going to put that in place there. You could certainly pop this up as well. I decided to glue it flat because now I'm going to want something over sorted to the right here. And I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Adornments, the stars. These are metal stars. I love these as well. They're really fun to put on a card. I recently did a graduation card, and I used them on that, and it came out really cute. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these, and I'm going to use that Ranger Multi-Matte Medium, only because it is metal to paper, and I do think that this sometimes holds a little bit better. So I'm just going to put a little dot of that for each of these stars, and that way I'll be sure these won't go anywhere. They'll stay nice and in place here. So that adds another little bit of dimension here. So Now, I decided to do an envelope. I'm using the Stampers Anonymous Tim Holtz collection, and this is the Mini Holidays set. Now, this is a little bit of an older set, but I do reach for it a lot. It has some really nice Christmas elements on it. And I'm going to take the Peacock feathers and the Mermaid Lagoon. Now, these are the colors that we used in the ocean. And I'm starting off with the Peacock feathers. I'm going to place it all over those snowflakes. And then I'm going to take the Mermaid Lagoon and I'm just dabbing it on in a few little areas. The pad is sort of on its side and I'm dabbing it on. And then I'm going to take the chipped Sapphire that we used before and again just dabbing in a few little areas there. It looks like the pad is flat, but I actually have it tipped to the side a little bit. And you'll see when I stamp this, just trying to decide which way I want it to go here, that you get this beautiful multicolored snowflake. And I just think that is so pretty. And that is going to blend in with the ocean on the card. So here again, I'm doing the same exact thing. The mermaid, the peacock feathers, the Mermaid Lagoon, and then a little bit of chipped Sapphire. And I'm just going to stamp that down. And I love how that looks. And then I inked a third one and I did it again. So just to finish off the envelope there. Now, one thing I will say is you don't want to mail this envelope because that is water-based ink. So if it was raining or snowing, it could get wet. So that might be a hand-delivered envelope. So now I'm taking the Nuvo drops in the red berry and I'm going to put a little dot in the center of that bow and a little teeny tiny dot on the nose of that last reindeer for Rudolph. And it's so tiny, I don't even know if you can see it, but it just added a little something, a little bit more of that red. And there's my finished card. I hope you had fun today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. And visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.